Okay, I'm recording the class. Thank you for reminding me. We said that today we're going to talk about the heart vessels, which are the coronary vessels, and in details, because in previous sessions we have talked about them. The coronary vessels are the vessels which are supporting the heart muscle and supplying the nutrients and the oxygen for the heart muscle. We have two coronary vessels, two coronary arteries. At first we'll talk about the coronary arteries and then coronary veins, okay? The coronary arteries are two arteries which are branching out of the aorta. If you remember in last session, we said that from the aortic sinuses we have a valve for the coronary arteries, right and left coronary arteries from right and left coronary sinuses in the aorta. These two arteries are surrounding the heart and supplying the heart with the blood which is flowing inside them. At first, let's talk about the right coronary artery. The right coronary artery is also called RCA in the clinic, right coronary artery. This artery is between the pulmonary trunk and the right atrium of the heart. Which part of the right atrium? This is the right auricle. If you remember, we said that in the right atrium we have two parts. One part is the right auricle. Everybody, can you see the slides? For some who cannot see the slides, please exit the class and then come back. Okay, if you remember, we said in the right atrium we have two parts. One part is the smooth-walled part and the other is the raw-walled part. The raw-walled part is called auricle of the right atrium. The auricle of the right atrium. Look at here. This part is the auricle. Yes, the raw part is the auricle of the right atrium. And the right coronary artery is between the right auricle and the pulmonary trunk. If we want to see the right coronary artery, we have to raise the right auricle like this slide. We have to raise it to see the right coronary artery. These arteries have two segments. The right coronary artery has two segments and also some branches. Some of the branches of the right coronary artery are supplying the beginning part of the aorta and the pulmonary trunk, and also the conus arteriosus. So we call them conal arteries. Pay attention, please. Some of the branches of right coronary artery are supplying the blood for the beginning part of the aorta and the pulmonary trunk and the conus arteriosus of the right ventricle. If you remember, we explained that. We call them the conal arteries. Also, the right coronary artery is sending some branches to the right atrium and right ventricle. Right atrium and right ventricle. One of the most important branches of the right coronary artery is sending the blood to the SA node, sinoatrial node. I will explain the SA node and AV nodes in this session, okay? But the branch which is supplying the SA node is branching out of the right coronary artery with the name of SA node artery, okay? And another branches are small branches which are supplying the right atrium and the right ventricle. After that, this artery is surrounding the heart and sending one branch into the inferior margin of the heart. Sending the branch into the inferior margin of the heart, which is called the right marginal branch. This branch is one of the biggest branches of the right coronary artery. Okay, this is called the right marginal branch, which is supporting the right ventricle of the heart, supplying the blood for the right ventricle. Okay, this is the right marginal branch. From the beginning of the right coronary till the end of this branch is called the first segment of the right coronary artery, which placed on the sternocostal surface of the heart. You can see this part of the right coronary artery on the sternocostal surface of the heart. Now, if we want to see the second part or the second segment of the right coronary artery, we have to turn the heart, look at here, like this, and taking a look on the inferior side or inferior surface of the heart. After the right marginal artery or the right marginal branch, the right coronary artery will come into the inferior surface of the heart, and the last branch is the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery. Posterior interventricular. Look at here, we can see this branch in this part. The posterior interventricular branch. This artery is placed in the posterior interventricular sulcus of the heart. Okay? This is placed in the posterior interventricular sulcus of the heart on the inferior or diaphragmatic surface of the heart. On the inferior or diaphragmatic surface of the heart. This is the last branch. The right coronary artery is also sending some branches to the posterior side of the right atrium and ventricle. Look at these small branches. But the main branches are these that we introduced them, okay? So this is the right coronary artery. Now, here we have the interventricular septum. The interventricular septum is placed between two ventricles of the heart. It has two parts, the membranous and the muscular part. The inferior 1/4 of the interventricular septum is being supplied by the posterior interventricular branch of right coronary artery. I will repeat my sentence. The inferior 1/5 of the interventricular septum, I mean this part, is being supplied by the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery. This artery is also called posterior descending artery or PDA. The posterior interventricular branch is also called posterior descending artery or PDA. If you can't see the slides, please look at the slides that you have yourself. I have sent them to Mr. Fassi, I think 2 nights ago. And I will tell you the number of the slides. I don't know what is the problem. It's your problem, because I have the slides and some of your classmates also have the slides. Okay? So, that was about the interventricular septum. The right coronary artery also sending a branch for the AV node. The branch of the AV node or atrioventricular node is also branching out of the posterior interventricular. It means the posterior interventricular artery is sending the branch for the AV node. For the AV node. Okay. The posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery is sending a branch to the AV node. So both SA node and AV node of the heart, I will explain the place of SA node and AV nodes in next slides, okay? These both nodes are being supplied by the branches of the right coronary artery. Now the left coronary artery. This artery is also starting or beginning from the left coronary sinus at the beginning part of the aorta, and the beginning part of this artery is called left main. Listen please. The beginning part of this artery is called left main. The left main part of this artery is just, I think, we can say 1.5 near 2 centimeters. Its length is just 1.5 to 2 centimeters, this part. It is placed between the pulmonary trunk and the left auricle. It is placed between the left coronary artery, is placed between the pulmonary trunk and the left auricle. It is also called LCA, left coronary artery. The beginning part of the left coronary The beginning part of the left coronary artery is called left main. Left main. It's near 1.5 to 2 centimeters and it's placed behind the pulmonary trunk. After that, the left coronary artery will separate or will divide into 2 main branches. Sinoatrial nodal branch is branching or separating from the right coronary artery. We finished that. Now I'm explaining the left coronary artery. After the left main, the left coronary artery is dividing into two parts. One of them is the anterior interventricular artery. One of them is called the anterior interventricular artery. This artery is also called LAD and placed in the anterior interventricular sulcus of the heart on the sternocostal surface of the heart. So, the LAD branch of the left coronary artery is placed in the interventricular sulcus of the heart here on the sternocostal surface. The left coronary artery is also sending some branches to the pulmonary trunk and the beginning part of aorta, and they are also called the conal branches. They are also called the conal branches. It has some small branches for these parts. The anterior interventricular artery is the longest and the biggest branch of all coronary arteries. What is called the left, but it is on the right. This is the left part of the heart, the left side of the heart. The left LAD, you mean? The LAD is placed in the anterior interventricular sulcus of the heart. Anterior interventricular sulcus of the heart on the sternocostal surface. I said that the LAD artery is the longest and biggest branch of all the coronary arteries. It is coming down to reach the apical notch of the heart. Look at here, it is coming down to reach to the apical notch. Apical notch of the heart is placed near to the apex, okay, approximately 1 centimeter on the right side of the apex of the heart, and it is the place where the anterior interventricular and posterior interventricular branches are anastomosing with each other. Anterior interventricular and posterior interventricular are anastomosing with each other. So here is the place where the blood of the right coronary artery and the left coronary arteries are mixing with each other. Look at here. Here is the apical notch. This is the anterior interventricular and this is the posterior interventricular. These two branches are anastomosing with each other at the apical notch of the heart. So this is the place where the blood of the right coronary artery and the left coronary artery are mixing with each other. This artery is sending some branches to the right ventricle with the name of right ventricular and to the left ventricle. Yes, the right and left coronary arteries are arising or branching out of the aorta, the aortic sinuses. Okay, the LAD is sending some branches to the right ventricle with the name of right ventricular, to the left ventricle with the name of diagonal arteries, and also to the septum, interventricular septum. Listen please. Right ventricular to a small part of the right ventricle, left ventriculars, and some septal branches. Yes. Why we call these branches the diagonals? Because they are passing through one angle to the other angle of the left ventricle, and they are passing through the diagon of the left ventricle from one angle to the other angles of the left ventricle, so we call in the diagon of the left ventricle, so we call them diagonal. Most of the time in the references said that they are three branches, D1, D2, and D3. The diagonal branches of anterior interventricular, D1, D2, and the D3. Sometimes the D1 or the first diagonal is separating or branching out of the circumflex branch, okay? But most of the time it is branching from LAD. There are variations. Some people just have two diagonals, D1 and D2, or the others have 3, 4, and there are many variations in the hearts. Okay, so we call them diagonals because they are passing or through the diagon of the left ventricle from one angle to the others. Yes, 1 or 2 or 3. Most of the time they are 3. It is typical. What difference? There is no difference. From the beginning of the LAD, we have 3 diagonal branches, and we call them D1, D2, and D3. All of them are diagonal, and all of them are supplying the blood for the left ventricle. Okay, so, and then we said the LAD branch also have septal branches. The septal branches are supplying the blood for the interventricular septum. Which part of the interventricular septum? The superior 4/5 of this septum. Okay, if you divide the interventricular septum into 5 parts from superior to inferior, the 4 parts of these 5 is being supplied by the LAD, and 1 posterior part is being supplied by the PAD. So, look at here, the 4/5 of the interventricular septum is being supplied by LAD. I don't know what is the problem with your network or your systems or your phones, because everybody has the slides and also the voice, so it is your problem, not me, sorry. We said that the superior 4/5 of the interventricular septum is being supplied by LAD. And the inferior 1/5 is being supplied by PAD. After that the other branch of left coronary artery is called circumflex artery. Why circumflex? Because it is going around the heart. It is going around the heart, so it is called the circumflex or LCX in the clinic. The LCX, LAD is the anterior interventricular artery. Anterior interventricular artery is called LAD. So, the circumflex artery is surrounding the heart and placed in the coronary sulcus. Look at here. It has some branches to the left auricle, to the left atrium, and the left ventricle. One of the biggest branches of the circumflex artery is the left marginal branch. Look at here, the left marginal branch, which is placed near the under left ventricle surface. It is called also the obtuse branch. This branch is also called the obtuse branch. After that, this artery is coming to the left side, to the inferior side of the heart, and supplying the blood for the posterior side of the left ventricle. For the posterior side of the left ventricle. Look at here. So, the left coronary artery, or LCA, has a main part which is called the left main and placed on the posterior side of the pulmonary trunk. It is just near 2 centimeters. Yes. The LAD branch and circumflex branch are two most important branches of the left coronary artery. LAD is supplying the left ventricle, the right ventricle. The left main part is 2 centimeters. The left main part is near 2 centimeters. Okay? And has some diagonal branches. The circumflex branch also supplying the blood for left ventricle, left atrium, and has a branch with the name of left marginal or obtuse branch. Now, there are many variations in the blood vessels, the heart vessels. Listen please. There are many variations in the forming or the formation of the blood vessels. How? Most of the time, and in a typical form, the anterior interventricular artery is large and turning around the apical notch and anastomosing with the posterior interventricular branch at this part, okay? Most of the time it is in this form. It's a typical form. But sometimes the anterior interventricular branch is small. Listen please. The function of the notch is just a place. It doesn't have a function. It's just a place. A landmark on the heart. So, Most of the time, the anterior interventricular artery is large and turning around the apical notch and anastomosing with the posterior interventricular artery, okay? But sometimes this artery will be small, so the posterior interventricular artery will come around the apical notch and come to the sternocostal surface and anastomose with the LAD. These kind of vessels are called right dominant. Right dominant. Why? Because the posterior interventricular artery is one of the branches of the right coronary artery and it is much bigger, coming down around the apical notch and come back into the sternocostal surface of the heart. So this form of heart vessel is called right dominant. What are the other variations? Look at here. For example, in this one, the anterior interventricular or left anterior descending branch of the left coronary is very short, as I said. The apical part of anterior or sternocostal surface supplied by branches from posterior interventricular or posterior descending branch of the right coronary artery, curving or turning around the apex. This heart is called right dominant. In the other form, look at here. The posterior interventricular branch is derived from circumflex branch. It is not from the right coronary. It is from the left coronary, from the circumflex branch of left coronary artery instead of right coronary artery. It's another variation. Look at here in this one. The posterior interventricular branch is absent. The area is supplied chiefly by small branches from circumflex branch of left coronary and from right coronary artery, the right marginal. You said the dominant is seen with respect to its part on posterior surface. Maybe. Yes. If the most parts of the septum and the heart being supplied by a vessel, we call that, for example, right dominant or left dominant. There is no difference. I said the typical form is that the anterior interventricular turn around the apical notch and anastomose with posterior interventricular, but there is no difference. The most typical form is that form, but there is no difference because all the branches are supplying the blood for example, if a vessel is absent like this. And the other form, look at here, the posterior interventricular or posterior descending branch is absent and the area is chiefly supplied by the anterior interventricular branch. It is elongated and curving around the apical notch and supplying the blood for this part. There are many variations in the heart, and if you dissect, for example, 50 hearts, it is possible to see 50 different forms of blood supplying. It's so variable in person to person. But the main, I can say that the main, no, I can't take time for pray, sorry, because we don't have time for the class. Okay? So, the main and the typical form is that form that I said, but it's so different. Look at here. The right and the left ventricles, the anterior 4/5 of the interventricular septum, the AV bundle, which I will explain at this session, in all cases, I mean 100% of people, and the left atrium are being supplied by the left coronary artery. But the aorta, the pulmonary trunk, the conus arteriosus, right atrium, right ventricle, the posterior 1/5 of interventricular septum, SA node and AV nodes are being supplied by the right coronary artery. The SA node will be supplied by the right coronary artery in 60 near to 65% of cases, and in the others, these nodes will be supplied by the left coronary artery. I will explain the bundle and the node today, okay? And for the AV node or atrioventricular node, in 80% of cases, it is being supplied by the right atrium, but in 20% it is being supplied by left coronary artery. But the AV bundle will be supplied with the left coronary artery in all cases. This is the heart, and if you imagine here is the atrioventricular septum, we can see that 4/5, that anterior 4/5 of the interventricular septum is being supplied by the left coronary artery, LAD branch, and 1/5 with the posterior descending coronary artery of right coronary artery. Now, if we see the cardiac veins, we can say in slide number 6, we can say that the cardiac veins are accompanying the cardiac arteries, the coronary arteries, but they have different names, okay? They have just different names. The vein which is placed in the anterior interventricular sulcus and is beside the LAD branch is called the great cardiac vein. The great cardiac vein, okay? It is placed on the anterior interventricular septum, and it is beside the anterior interventricular artery or LAD. The next branch is the middle cardiac vein. Middle cardiac vein is placed on the posterior interventricular sulcus, on the diaphragmatic surface of the heart, and is placed beside the posterior interventricular branch or PAB. Posterior interventricular branch or PAB. Okay? The next branch is the small cardiac vein. The small cardiac vein is placed on the right margin of the heart and beside the right marginal branch. Beside the right marginal branch on the right margin of the heart. Another vein is the posterior vein of left ventricle. Look at here. The posterior vein of the left ventricle, which is beside the posterior branch of the circumflex artery, which is on the posterior side of the left ventricle. And another branch is a branch which is called the oblique vein of left atrium, and the other, it's also called the Marshall vein. Here we have the Marshall vein on the posterior side of the left atrium. Now listen please. The great cardiac vein, yes, Marshall vein. The great cardiac vein and the posterior vein of the left ventricle are connecting to each other. I will repeat. The great cardiac vein and the posterior vein of the left ventricle are connecting to each other and forming the coronary sinus on the inferior or diaphragmatic surface of the heart. On the inferior or diaphragmatic surface of the heart, they are connecting to each other and forming the coronary sinus. Here is the coronary sinus. The Marshall vein is pouring into the beginning part of the coronary sinus. Look at here, it is pouring into this part. And the small cardiac vein and the middle cardiac vein are pouring into the last or end part of the coronary sinus. And at the end, the coronary sinus is draining the blood into the right atrium. Is draining the blood into the right atrium. Do you remember that we had a valve on the opening of the coronary sinus that we call that Tebesius valve inside the right atrium? So I will repeat again. Great cardiac vein will attach to the posterior vein of the left ventricle and forming coronary sinus. The oblique vein of left atrium or Marshall vein will pull or connect to the beginning part of the coronary sinus. The small and middle cardiac veins will be connected to the end part of the coronary sinus. And all of this blood of the heart will be drained into the right atrium. It has a valve with the name of Tebesius. It has a valve with the name of Tebesius. Okay? Any question about these? Okay. Pay attention, please. The heart, also, all of the heart, have some small veins in each part which are draining the blood into each chamber of the heart. For example, on the left atrium, ventricle, on the right ventricle, right atrium, left atrium, okay? These vessels are draining the blood from each chamber to that chamber itself, not into the right atrium. For example, from this side to right ventricle, this side to the left, to right ventricle and left ventricle. These are some small veins in each chamber. Okay? And they are draining the deoxygenated blood of the heart muscle into the blood which is placed in each chamber. For example, you know that in the left ventricle we have just oxygenated blood. Okay? But these veins are draining the deoxygenated blood into the left ventricle. What is the function of these vessels? The function is that when there is an MI or ischemy in a part of the heart and there is no enough blood for the heart muscle, the direction of the blood in these vessels will vice versa, and the blood will come into the muscles from each chamber and supplying the blood for the heart muscle. Okay? What are you talking about? I'm explaining about the veins. Okay? Now, the next part we're going to talk about is the fibrous skeleton of the heart. Fibrous skeleton of the heart. Listen, please. The fibrous skeleton of the heart has a main central part which is called the central fibrous body. The fibrous skeleton of the heart, or cardiac skeleton, has a main part with the name of central fibrous body. Central fibrous body. This central fibrous body consists of 2 triangles and 4 annulus fibrosus rings. Listen, please. The central fibrous body consists of 2 triangles and 4 annulus fibrosus rings. Where is the right fibrous trigone? The right fibrous trigone is the biggest trigone, much bigger than the left one, and is placed between the tricuspid valve, the mitral valve, and the aortic valve. Look at here, look at this triangle. This is the right fibrous triangle and placed between the tricuspid, mitral, and aorta. The left fibrous trigone is smaller than the right one and placed between the mitral valve and the aortic valve. From these triangles, some rings will surrounding and curving around the atrioventricular valves, and they are annulus fibrosus rings around tricuspid and mitral valves, and also 2 around the aortic valve and pulmonary trunk. So we have 4 annulus fibrosus rings around tricuspid, mitral, aortic, and pulmonary trunk valves. The 2 valves or the 2 rings which are around the tricuspid and mitral valves are much stronger. These 2 are much stronger than the others. What is the function of the fibrous skeleton of the heart? One of the functions is that they could be an origin for the myocardia. They could be an origin for the myocardia. How? From these rings to the upper part or the superior part, we have the atriums. We can't see them in this picture, in this slide. Because there, we can see that their function is much more important. So, They are the origin of the myocardia. From these rings to the superior part, we have the atriums or the muscle of the atriums, and from these rings to the inferior part, we have ventricles, the myocardia of ventricles. So these rings could be an origin for the myocardia. The next part is that they are an origin for heart valves, for the tricuspid, for the mitral, aortic, and pulmonary valves. And the other function is that they are separating the contraction of the atrium and ventricles. They are insulating these contractions, because when the atriums are contracting, the hearts must be relaxed, the ventricles must be relaxed. And when the ventricles are contracting, the atriums must be relaxed. So the insulation of this contraction will be done by the fibrous skeleton of the heart. This fibrous skeleton is placed between the atriums and ventricles, and the myocardia of atrium is originating from this part to the upper parts superiorly, and the ventricles will originate from this part inferiorly. Okay? So this was about the fibrous skeleton of the heart. Any question about the fibrous skeleton? Can you see my slides? Ascardis bone. The ascardis is present in some animals because the fibrous skeleton is too much strong. In some parts there will be ossification and a bone will produce here. We call that the ascardis. The ascardis is, we can say, its function, it's like the central fibrous body, but it is not present in human beings. Separate ventricles and atriums, yes. When the travels within atrium, I don't know what you are asking. I couldn't understand your question, Mr. Hussein. You're welcome. Okay. Now, let's talk about the cardiac conducting system. Cardiac conducting system. The cardiac conducting system is contained of some parts. The first and the most important part is the SA node, sinoatrial node. The sinoatrial node is also called Kate and Flack. These are the name of two scientists or researchers, Kate and Flack. It's near 27 to 30 millimeters, which is placed transversely on the opening part of the superior vena cava. Then the superior vena cava is pouring into the right atrium, The sinoatrial node is placed here. It is a big node, but it can't be seen. The sinoatrial node is it's the starting point of the conduction system and starting the heartbeat. Okay? The next part is number 2, the AV node or atrioventricular node. The atrioventricular node is placed in a triangle which named Koch triangle. The Koch triangle is placed between the right atrium and the right ventricle, where it has 3 sides. The Koch triangle has 3 sides. One of these sides is the septal leaflet of tricuspid valve. Look at here, this is the septal valve. And this is the base of the septal leaflet of tricuspid valve. The other side is this one, the valve of coronary sinus, here. And the last side is called the tendon of Todaro. No, it is not like a sinus, it is not like a groove, it's just a place and it can't be seen. It can't be seen here. Just if you want to know where is the place of the AV node, we can say that it is placed in the Koch triangle, and the 3 sides of the Koch triangle are the base of the septal lat or the septal leaflet of tricuspid, the base of coronary sinus, and the tendon of Todaro. Tendon of Todaro is placed in the endocardium, a tendon, a fibrous tendon which is placed in the endocardium. Inside the Koch triangle we have the AV node, atrioventricular node. This is the second node of the conducting system, cardiac conducting system. There are some bundles between these 2 nodes, which are called the internodal bundles. Mostly they are 3 bundles. Look at here, 1, 2, 3. Mostly they are 3 bundles internodal between SA node and AV node. After that we have the His bundles. His bundles are 2 bundles. One is number 4. Look at here, left branch of His bundle, and the other is number 10, right branch of His bundle. And at the end side we have Purkinje fibers. These bundles are branching and making Purkinje fibers. Number 6 and 5, number 5 and number 6, okay? So, different parts of cardiac conducting system are the SA node and the AV node. The bundle which is placed between these 2 nodes is called internodal bundle, and there are 3 bundles. After that we have His bundles after the AV node. Right, left and the right His bundles, and at the end branches are called the Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers. The heartbeat will start from the SA node. Listen please. The heartbeat will start from the SA node. After that, but through these bundles, internodal bundles, this conduction will reach to the AV node and will contract the atriums, right and left atrium. But the ventricles are relaxed. At the time that the conduction is reaching to the AV node, it will send it to the His bundles and they are coming into the apex of the heart, and after the apex they will distribute into the heart muscles, heart ventricle muscles. Okay? So the conduction will distribute through the apex of the heart to the base. By using the His bundles, the contraction will come or will reach to the apex of the heart and then will distribute into the heart muscles. After that, the ventricle muscle will contract and the blood will enter to the pulmonary trunk and aorta at the systole phase. Did you understand? No? The others, did you understand my explanation? Okay, good. I will explain one more time. Listen, please. I will explain one more time. No, heartbeat will start from SA node. SA node is the pacemaker. SA node is the pacemaker of the heart. Okay? From the SA node, the heartbeat will start. Listen, please. After that, it will reach to the AV node through internodal bundles and will distribute into the myocardium of atriums, right and left atrium, and contracting the myocardia of right and left atrium. Okay? By contracting the atriums, the blood will come into the ventricles because the ventricles are relaxed and in the diastole phase. After reaching the heartbeat into the AV node, it will pass it into the His bundles, right and left His bundles, and the conduction will reach to the apex of the heart and then distributing into the myocardia of ventricles, right and left ventricles, from the apex to the base. From the apex to the base. So the ventricles will be contracted and the blood in the systole phase, and the blood will enter to the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. This is the direction of the conduction of the heart. SA node, AV node, His bundles, and then from the apex of the heart to the base. So at first we have contraction in the atriums, and then after relaxing the atrium, the ventricles will contract and in the systole phase, and the blood will enter to the aorta and pulmonary trunk. Near the SA node, if the SA node doesn't work properly, or for example the blood supplying of the SA node, something happened for that, you're welcome. there would be some heart attacks, or for example abnormalities in heartbeat. Okay, so the surgeon will place a pacemaker beside the SA node. Yes, we call them arrhythmias. Because it doesn't have a normal rhythm, we call them arrhythmias. Any other question? Okay, very good. Before explaining the other at first, take a look on these slides. Yes, abnormal beating is arrhythmia. At first. So we said the AV node and the SA node and AV nodes are being supplied by the right coronary artery and the AV bundle with the left coronary artery. One of you asked what is the difference between AV node and AV bundle. This is AV node and the his bundles are the AV bundles. Okay? So the bundles are being supplied by the left coronary artery and the AV node and SA node are being supplied by the right coronary artery. Look at here in this slide also we can see the sinoatrial node and the atrioventricular node, the three internodal branches, and the his bundle, right and left his bundles, and the last fibers are the Purkinje fibers, which are distributing in the myocardia of ventricles from apex to the base. It is so important, from apex to the base. The conduction is distributing in the ventricular muscles from apex to the base. Here also we can see the place of AV node in Koch triangle and the Purkinje branches. Okay, before explaining about the cardiac nerves, I will put the, what am I repeat? I just explained the previous slides. Look at here, SA node, AV node, three internodal bundles. I said that the his bundle is going to the apex of the heart, and then the Purkinje branches are distributing into the cardiac muscles, ventricular muscles. So the conduction is passing through the apex to the base, not from the base to the apex. Okay? The conduction is, the direction of the conduction of the heart is from the apex to the base. The Purkinje fibers are placed in this direction. You're welcome. I said before starting the explanation about the cardiac nerves, I will put the attendance link. Please just do it one time, not more than one, because you are just 64 and I have near 100 responses. Just do it one time, okay? Not more than one. Let me give you the link. Everybody just one time. Click the link and submit your presence just one time. The link is working because I have your responses. I have 16 responses. Yes.
Salam and good morning, ma'am.
Salam, thank you.
How are you, ma'am?
Thank you, I'm okay.
Ma'am, I need just one favor from you, and also all the class need this favor. If you help this, all the class in this regard. Ma'am, actually, in the last session, I will also talk to you about this. But in today lecture, you didn't, does not mention anything about this. Ma'am, you tell us that for Grey's Anatomy, but you not confirm this for the reference book.
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Ma'am, actually, I am saying that in the last session, I will talk to you
Mm-hmm.
about this. You tell us that you will tell to all the class about the reference book, and also you tell that about Grey's Anatomy, but not the edition. So tell us about that. Which book is best for best understanding and for getting great marks in the exam?
Okay, okay, of course.
And also about the notes that you tell us that about Sir Iftikhar, our that you talk to him and then share with us the notes.
Yes, because Dr. Eftekhar said that I'm preparing a text, I think, I don't know if it is in English or not. He said that I'm preparing a text for the MBBS students, so because of that, I'm waiting for his response. If he give me a booklet that is in English, I will give you that, and that would be okay for your reference. But if not, I think Snell would be better for your exams because
Ma'am,
Gray anatomy is very complicated.
okay, ma'am, which edition? Personnel?
I don't know. I will tell you. Of
Ma'am,
course, I will tell you.
yes, ma'am.
I will talk to Dr. Eftekhar. If he give me the notebooks or the booklets to me, I will give it to you, okay? But if not, I will tell you about the Snell, the edition of the Snell.
Yes, ma'am, please. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
You're
actually,
welcome.
in our last semester and also in this semester, we have a lot of experience and the mistakes we have done in the last semester also, we don't want to repeat them in this semester. Ma'am, actually, our different teachers have different reference book and we have different teachers for each subject. For example, for week we have two teachers and for the final we have other two teachers and they have their own reference books they suggest. So it's not good for us to purchase these books in hard copy. If you tell us one reference book which is better uh, for the that book that from where you make the slides, from where you take the material of the slides, so it will be better for us to buy it in
Okay.
hard copy for this semester,
Okay.
because it's
Okay.
not
Okay.
possible
Of
to buy
course.
about 3 or 4 books for one subject.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Okay, of course. Of course, I will let you know about the edition, the best edition that you can use for all of the classes. Of course, I will tell you.
Yes, ma'am. And also, ma'am, for the next semesters, for example, for the third, fourth, or fifth semester, because I come to know that we
Now, we are going to talk about the cardiac nerves. We said, yes, I said, if you read all my explanations for your exam, it would be enough. But if you need another reference, I will introduce you for next sessions. After talking to Dr. Eftekhar, I will let you know. The cardiac nerves. We said that the heart has a conducting system, and the SA node, AV nodes, and the SA node is a pacemaker which is starting the impulses of the heart. But it is not like that the nervous system do not control the heart. The heart is also being controlled by the cardiac nerves. These cardiac nerves are containing the sympathetic and parasympathetics. These cardiac nerves are controlling the heartbeat. When the sympathetic is working, the heartbeat will raise, for example, from 70 to 100 beats in a minute. And when the parasympathetic is working, that would be vice versa. So the cardiac nerves are controlling the heart conducting system. So the cardiac nerves are forming by the sympathetic and parasympathetics. What are the sympathetic and parasympathetics? These two are a kind of, or two parts of autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Okay, these two are forming two cardiac plexus, superficial and deep. These two, the branches of sympathetic and parasympathetic, are forming superficial and deep cardiac plexus. Where are the cardiac plexus? The superficial cardiac plexus is placed under the aortic. Okay? Yes, sympathetic during exercise and parasympathetic at rest. So, the superficial cardiac plexus is placed under the aortic arc, but the deep cardiac plexus is placed at the posterior side of the aortic arc and near the bifurcation of the trachea. Look at here. This is the trachea and this is the bifurcation part, which is separating or dividing into two parts, right and left trachea. The superficial cardiac plexus is placed under the aortic arc, but the deep cardiac plexus is placed behind the aortic arc and near to the bifurcation of trachea. Now, what are the branches of the cardiac nerves? Look at here. The sympathetic chain is a chain that placed besides the vertebra in the body. Okay, is placed besides the vertebra in the body. This chain has many ganglions from the superior part up to the lumbar and sacral parts. It has many ganglions. These are ganglions. 3 of these ganglions are placed in the neck. We call them cervical ganglions. Superior, middle, and inferior cervical ganglions of sympathetic chain. Okay? And after that, we have the thoracic nerves, T1 to T12. The main part of the sympathetic nerves are in the thoracolumbar part of the spine, thoracolumbar, from T1 to L2. The branches of sympathetic nerve is coming into the cervical ganglions, superior, middle, and inferior, and after that they are sending some branches to the heart from each ganglion. Superior, middle, and inferior on the right side and left side. Also, the thoracic nerves of T1 to T5. The spinal nerves of T1 to T5 also sending some sympathetic branches to the cardiac plexus. So if we count them, we have 8 branches on each side: superior, middle, and inferior ganglions, cervical ganglions, T1, T2, T3, T4, and T5. 8 branches in each side, which is totally, we have 16 branches in both sides. These are the sympathetic branches, the sympathetic part of the cardiac plexus. These branches is coming to the heart under the aortic arc and forming the cardiac plexus. What about the parasympathetic? The parasympathetic of the heart is forming from the vagus nerve. Okay? Vagus nerve also sending some branches, the parasympathetic branches, to the heart. What are the branches of the vagus? The vagus nerve has 2 branches in the cervical part, in the neck, and 1 in the thoracic cavity. Both of them, right and left. Right and left vagus nerves, look at here, this is vagus nerve, are sending 3 branches to the cardiac plexus in each side. 3 in left side and 3 in right side. 2 of these 3 branches are in the cervical side and 1 of them in the thoracic cavity, is coming to the heart plexus from the thoracic cavity. So generally we have 6 parasympathetic branches, and totally we have 22 sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, 16 for sympathetic and 6 for parasympathetic. Okay, from all of these 22 branches, 2 of them, from all of these branches, 2 of them are forming these 22, at first, listen, the superficial and deep cardiac plexus are connected to each other, and all the branches are connecting to each other, okay? And there is no border between these 2. And because of their place, we call them superficial and deep. So their function is related to each other, but because of their place, just we call them superficial and deep branches. And from these 22, 2 of them are forming the deep cardiac plexus. 2 of these are forming the superficial plexus, superior cervical sympathetic ganglion, the branch which is coming from the superior cervical sympathetic ganglion, and inferior vagal ganglion in the left side. So, except these 2 branches, all of them are forming the left cardiac plexus. 22 branches are generally forming the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of cardiac plexus. From these 22, 20 of them are forming deep cardiac plexus, and 2 of them are forming the superficial one. Superficial, the 2 branches which are forming the superficial plexus are the superior cervical sympathetic ganglion and inferior vagal ganglion in left side. Okay, so here we can see these branches which are forming the superficial and deep plexus of the heart, and pay attention that the function of these 2 plexuses are with each other, not separated from each other. Just because of their places, their position, we call them superficial and deep. And as you said, at the time of exercise, at the time of, for example, when you are fearing and, for example, you are doing something horrible, and the sympathetic is working, the heartbeat and heart blood pressure is raising, and in parasympathetic, it is when you are relaxed and something like that, the parasympathetic will, yes, at the time of danger, the parasympathetic will work and the heartbeat will become lower. Okay. That was the things that I wanted to explain for this session. If you have any question, ask please. The attendance link, you mean? Look at here, I have 86 responses, but you are just 58. And the link is off now. You can't access to the link. Yes. Okay, no problem, but I said just enter the link one time. No, it is finished. The class is finished. If you have any question, please ask. If not, you can go, and our next session will be on next Saturday at 12 o'clock. Yes. Yes, no problem. I don't know. You have to ask Miss Negari about the time of your final exam.